You joining me?
So I feel an episode of Conversations with Ask the Pool Guy
All right,
coming on.
let's do it.
Hi, Sandi Mackey here.
And Al Curtis.
This is Conversations with Ask the Pool Guy with a live studio audience.
Ooh, whoa, wow, we're moving up in the world. Careful.
If you would ever like to be a part of our live studio audience, all you need to do is come to our studio office and say that you're here, and then we'll just go ahead and get started.
Or happen to show up anywhere when we're on a location just deciding to do an episode. You could meet there as well.
Got it.
That's right.
That would be great.
So what's on your mind?
So on my mind today is how easy it really is for people to start telling their stories by doing video.
Mm-hmm.
I made the offer. As many of you guys know, we have a marketing club that meets weekly, and we're almost going on our 2-year marketing club anniversary, so we've got to have a celebration, which is great. Yeah. So that's awesome. And a lot of people are intimidated about getting their first video up, and it's really kind of cool. In this group, we have people that are at their like baby steps into like, I'm gonna get my first video up on YouTube. And then we have people that are, you know, the goal for this year is to get up to 600 videos, which is great, and we have everything in between. And one of the things that I've told people that they should do if they're stuck on video is come to our studio
Slash office.
Yeah. Let me know when you're coming. I will turn the camera on and we will just have a conversation. I think sometimes people are intimidated by thinking they have to script something or they have to be perfect. And really it is as simple as coming in and turning on the camera and then just bantering back and forth with questions and things like that.
There's an interesting point to this process, and the more that you do it, the more you talk about it, the more you tell a story, the easier it becomes and the more it sounds scripted. I remember when we did CDs years ago, and that was just you and I having conversation around the topic, and many times people that listen to those felt that they were scripted and thought they were. And really what it was we were good at telling a story because we told the story so many times that instead of trying to script it and then be awkward in scripting it, just tell the story, because if you tell it enough, it eventually sounds scripted because you become really good at it. And the lesson there, though, is you just got to start talking. You just got to tell the story.
That's how people often feel. I know even at the International Pool Show when we spoke, our team came and they saw us really present in that capacity for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And they, our own team, who kind of knows the behind the scenes, thought that it was scripted and we had practiced it, and we had not. Of course we knew the material because we're well versed in it, but we had never put it together in that way.
Well, we knew the material, but we didn't have a sequence exactly. And I think there's a lot to do with the fact that we've done this for so long on a lot of different fronts, not just pool related, but we've spoken together on stage many, many times. And I guess it's just learning those nonverbal cues as to when someone's thoughts are fading out so someone can pick back up. And I think that's probably what people don't understand and why they think it's scripted, is it seems like as your voice's tail is trailing off because you're running out of that thought, my voice is picking up. Or the other way around, when I'm getting to that thought and I'm trailing off, all I need to do is give you that quick look and you're right there, because in the process of me talking, you've had 10 things you wished you could talk about. And yet, you know, that makes it seem seamless. But that's practice. That's all that is.
It definitely is practice. And on video as well, it's intimidating, and I still sometimes even have that pause. You know, the red light goes on when you can see it, and all of a sudden you're kind of at a loss for words. And practice makes it better. As one of our marketing club teammates talked about at the meeting the other day, when he needed to get over his fear of starting some of his first videos, thanks Chad, he went back and he looked at your stuff, and he realized that I can just be me, and they don't have to be perfect at the beginning. If
that guy can do it, I can do it. And I'm glad to be able to inspire like that, because I just listened to you and you said do it. And as much as I didn't want to do it, I believed in what you were saying. I didn't see the big picture. I just believed in what you were saying because I understood that you had a really good handle all those years ago on where this social media world was going, where the power of the internet was going, where the power of YouTube was going. My faith was completely in you. So I stammered my way through it, so I'm really glad people can be inspired by that, because those early days were hard and it was awful, and the red light went on then. It was impossible to start talking. Now I just don't want to, but I know that it's a good thing to do. And again, it's just experience and practice.
You know, and back to where I started this with, it is important for people to tell their stories and have conversations and do video. And even today, I sat down with 2 different people, and one had just come into the office for a meeting. We're working on putting together some things, a website and YouTube and things for her, and we had no plans of doing video today. And I said, just in our conversation, she to me was speaking in what would make great sound bites for content. And I said, do you mind if I just pop the camera up? If I get stuff that'll work, I'll use it. If I don't, that's great. Everything that we talked about, I could use. And then Chad from Marketing Club came in today too. We turned the camera on. We went for 28 minutes straight without taking a breath. And then we took a little pause and we got another 20 minutes. And that is going to turn into 50 super clips of content. And we got that all in the span of an hour or less conversation.
I think there's an expectation of it's supposed to be pre-thought out. When, like doing a presentation, you have to have your your beginning, your middle, take the hero's journey and go to the end. And yeah, in the world of published stuff, of really polished stuff, you have to think beginning, middle, end. But what we're talking about in content, in just sharing the richness of our story, we're not building up to a crescendo in the story. We're simply telling the experience. And that's that internet 1-minute world. That's what people want. They'll go and find that long introduction, long middle, crescendo to the excitement in the end. They'll go find that in a 2-hour movie. Nobody wants to find that in a 2-minute video. They want the information. They want to know what it's all about, and they want to enjoy the experience because it's helping them. You're only watching a video because it's helping you. It's either entertaining you, or it's educating you, it's doing something, or it's helping you understand who a person is. And if you understand that, you realize it's all about being human and being real and being in the moment of the experience of what you're talking about. All that falls away. All that premeditated, pre-designed, have to worry about how I look or feel or think, kind of goes away. Because we'll forgive people who have a hiccup in their voice, or pause because they have to cough, and that's all okay because that's being human.
Yeah. So speaking of people telling their stories, this weekend we have one of our favorite outings to go on. It's one of the summits, the Eagle Summits that we talk about with the Tom Hill Network. We are headed to one this weekend coming up in Florida. And the summits happen 3 times a year, and we do go, and they do have kind of a loose program. They have speakers and things like that. Yet I think I've always drawn the most benefit from simply having conversations with people who go to these. I was explaining it to someone today, and I said it's like a mastermind, but it's national. We are in all different parts of the country, sometimes international, and we get together because we all want to learn and grow. And while we do learn often from the people that take the stage, it's those conversations at break, and it's having dinner with different people and becoming exposed to different methods and philosophies about business that have really, I think, helped me, and I'm sure helped you grow.
I think when we first started going, that was a much needed thing for us to break out of the expected shell of what we knew our world to be. And by meeting people from all over the world doing all kinds of crazy, amazing, cool things, what I know that I was learning then and I still do now is not so much the technique of how they built their business or anything around the process of a business. Not at all. It was the process of thought, how they think. How when not doing that, they think as a human being. And when they're having conversation, what is that conversation? Because if you elevate that part, the business is going to come with it. And we get really involved in business conferences about the education of the business. I think that focus is wrong. Let's understand that we all need to be better skilled at business. We all can use that. We can all get some help there. But what about the people that are truly being successful? Is let's shadow them and see how they think. Let's have conversations with them and see what they talk about. And one of the most obvious things with that is there's very little jibber small talk about nothing. Most of it's significant. It's not business necessarily. but it's significance in life. It's sense of accomplishment in life, and how they've gotten there and how they feel about it. And when you dwell in that space, your business can't help but get better because you're getting better as a person. You're working on that center square of you like we talk about. And it's simply being associated with people who have that, who already have been down that road, that have built fabulous companies, that have fabulous lives and lifestyles, and they're doing things that matter. When you pay attention to people that are doing things that matter, they don't talk about the mundane crap that everyone else wants to talk about. They're having elevated thought in everything they do, because why get lost in that when you can spend a lot of your time just in the yummy part of what's going on in the world? And that's why politics is okay to now talk about, because it's not a taboo thing, because you're going to get real intellectual reasons as to why people believe the way they do. You're not going to get the typical politician's answer, because they don't live in that world. They live in the world of being authentically real in themselves. They don't have to pretend or be politically correct. They can be themselves because they've deserved it. They've earned it. So they live there, so it's okay to talk about anything, because you're going to have that level of conversation. Yes.
So
yes, audience member.
I know, but I had a thought. So hold that thought, studio audience, and I'll get to you in just a second. As Al was talking, I just had a great idea. When we go to summits, we don't tend to bring cameras and ask people to chat with us. But my goal for this weekend is going to be to sit down with several people that attend the summits, including Tom Hill. And I just want to banter back and forth and have a conversation about some great ideas that have been happening. So stay tuned for that. They will be released as part of our video series on YouTube, just conversations with fantastically amazing and interesting people. Mm-hmm. So now to a question from our studio audience.
Audience member.
Hello, I've got a question. I'm from Howell, Michigan. And what advice would you give to your Tuesday night marketing members that were looking for some sort of summit activity, like in their industry, or what advice would you give them to pursue that type of environment? Yes.
Okay.
Well, it's kind of a tough question, because that's something that we have faced many times, saying, where else can we go? How can we draw from? How can we attract? How can we do a lot of that stuff? And in our particular case, we just were fortunate enough to be in the position, in the place, and the timing, and all of that to get this thumbs up to go to this event, and then been fortunate enough to be re-invited back. And I do think that a good portion of the being re-invited back is you have to give when you're there. And that's something that I think a lot of audience member goers to events and things think it's about entertainment or knowledge. No, it's about giving as much as it is about getting. And I think we've gotten the nod to come back many times, because each time we go, we're leaving a part of us on the table. We're leaving a part of us with them. And it's back to your question. It's a great question, and it's not an easy one to answer, because as you know, you walk out of this door and you live in the world of crazy, because people out there are going to go, "Are you nuts? Oh, you think that way? You mean we're not going to talk football every night, and we're not going to talk about what color should we paint the ceiling?" But being around people that don't think that way, that can elevate you, helps. And some thoughts and recommendations. I know we've certainly had this conversation a lot.
Yeah.
They could be local, maybe, for people to get, like, what would be your, so maybe people aren't all going to go to that summit this weekend, but what would be their...
So beginning steps that I would suggest for someone who's looking at doing this is, number one, kind of define the idea that you want to do it. And then two, think about the people that you'd really like to interact with more. One of the things that I had done, well, and then there's a third step to that. If you can't find one to join, start one yourself based on that list of people that you've been talking about. And you might find that you spend time with a certain group of people, and then you might outgrow each other. And at that point, it's good to re-examine who would you be inspired by. And one of the things that I had talked about a while ago, we've been a part of mastermind groups for a long time, and we've started almost all of them ourselves. One of the things I had said was I would like to start hanging out with people like our pool clients more, because a lot of our pool clients are successful business owners or successful employees and whatever they're doing. And I felt like they had a knowledge base that I could start tapping into. So I started talking about that out loud. And all of a sudden, without planning or trying to orchestrate it, that has
started happening.
happened. And we're now spending more time with those kind of people. People who inspire me and people who are, those kind of people are clients, which is great. Another thing that I would do is to express the search for that knowledge to people that you talk with. So the advice for the members of the marketing club would be to talk about this and talk about the environments that you'd like to spend more time in, because I know that I'm always open, and when we get the invitations to these summits, occasionally we're allowed to invite people ourselves. And I kind of always have my eye and ear open for other people who are expressing that they're
You got to
ready
self-select your way
for
in.
something like this, because you can't just throw anybody into it. It's kind of like it would be traumatic and a fish out of water. But for the people who are right at just the right time, the more that you're talking to people like me, like Al, like people that attend these summits with us, and people that attend other types of functions, the more that you'll get kind of drawn into a conversation with them, and they'll say, hey, I have this thing that I think might be a good fit for you. So the more that you talk about it and the more you express it, the more others around you who kind of know of some of these connections can open those doors.
I think it's the conversation. Once you start open that conversation and talk always about what you want, and that's why in Mark, the marketing group, we talk so much about that, defining what you want and talking about it. Is by talking about it, you help define it. So if it's how do I hang around with a different group of people, start talking in every conversation about the type of people you want to hang out with, about who's the next person I'd like to meet. How many times have we done that over the years, saying, so who's that next person, who's that next person? And then we kind of have this crazy, wacky list of pretty interesting people that we've met, high-profile people and really cool, world-changing people that we've now spent time around. And it's not because we were selected. We self-selected, but we started talking about it.
And then we were open to the opportunities.
That's another big piece of it.
Let go of the fear that you can't do it. If somebody says, can you get on a plane tomorrow and go to California?
Just say yes.
Say, yeah, I'll be on a plane tomorrow morning.
Yep.
Just let me know when and where.
Yep.
You've got to be willing to do that. And that's another thing that I know has prevented some people from kind of taking that leap. But you've got to just do it.
Well, and I think there's, we kind of live in that world of it's money and decisions and all of that. And really it's about just leaping. There's a lot of times that we probably shouldn't have gotten on that plane to go to this event or that event or go wherever, and financially wouldn't have made sense. And if you looked at the numbers at the time, it was bad timing and everything else. But we always said yes. That was one thing that we independently probably struggled with, but when it came down to it, we said yes, and by saying yes, it's opened up opportunities.
If you are one of those people who is looking for some of these opportunities and you are in our sphere and we know you, self-select by letting us know and get your passport ready, because I have a feeling there will be an opportunity coming up probably in June, and I'm thinking Canada. So get your ducks in order so that you're ready to say yes when I say, can you get on a plane tomorrow?
Yeah. And I think that we kind of do live in that world of, but I have to pre-plan and I have to pre-save and I have to, and that's all okay. I think the entrepreneurial world, and maybe right now I'm speaking more to entrepreneurs, that we kind of have this ability to shuck and jive. We can pull from here to go there and do this, and if you have a paycheck at the end of the week, I've never lived that way, so I don't know. I'm only surmising that if I work X number of hours and I get X number of dollars and I do that every week for years and years and years, then I have an expected of where each of those dollars go. So it's not so easy to shuck and jive and move and do that. But certainly an entrepreneur, if it is to be, it's up to me. If I need to make more money, I need to work harder. I need to work more. I need to work smarter. I need to do something different. But it's up to me to do it. And the net result is if I pull $800 to go do this thing, even if it was designated for that, I can figure out how to make $800 more. Maybe having a normal job with a normal paycheck at a normal whatever, $800 doesn't seem doable. But you know what? At some point you have to break that and say, this is important. Because I think you mentioned it last night in our meeting that if it's important enough, you'll do it. If it's not important enough, you're going to sit there and whine about why life's not changing. But if it's important enough, you'll come up with $800 if that's what it costs to go to some event. And instead of looking at the money that it costs, look at the experience you have. And completely, it's like gambling. You take the $800, turn it into chips, and now it's play money. It's funny money. It's no longer dollar bills anymore, and it doesn't mean anything. You kind of have to look at it that way. If it's your last $800 to do something, and there's a burning desire enough to do it, and we're not talking being stupid about it. We're talking about being inspired by something.
Although if it was your last $800 and you had a choice of going to a summit or not, I would spend my last $800
That's
on
different,
going to
sure.
a summit.
But if it was $800 and you had $800 left to your entire name, and it was a chance of going to that or seeing the Who, okay, that's what I'm saying. Maybe that'd be cool to see the Who or the Rolling Stones, but that $800 wouldn't necessarily make sense to spend. But if it was $800 going to a weekend and it was the last $800, you're absolutely investing in the future. And you know what? If it's a matter of paying a bill next week, don't pay the bill next week, because if you're inspired enough, that'll happen. And I think it takes that attitude, though. And it's not just a money thing. I mean, money is always part of some of these decisions, but it's more of the decision to say yes because I want to change and I want to have a better experience and I want my life to grow and I want to expand. And yet most people are waiting for that to happen by watching a TV show or reading a book. Those are all really good things, but it requires action. You have to do something to create a crazy life. You got to do crazy shit. And crazy doesn't mean idiotic, but you have to be willing to do the stuff that most people aren't willing to do.
Yeah. That's the thing. You have to be willing to do it.
And pay the consequence if that's what it is. But the consequence is silly because it's typically a reward.
It's offset by the reward.
It is. The rewards happen so many more times than the quote-unquote consequences. But that's the fear why people don't start, is the consequence of what might happen. And yet you and I both know there's never a consequence.
No.
There's a net result, and the net result 99% of the time is really good.
Absolutely. I know one of our friends from the summit, Craig Hughes, has said that every time he wanted his company to grow, he said yes to an opportunity, whether it was sending his staff to trainings or one particular, the head of his operations. He said, all I had to do was send him to get some more knowledge and a new experience, and the bottom line increases every time. So some people, until you experience that for yourself, it might be hard to wrap your head around, but that's what it takes. It takes investing in you and investing in your team, and that's where the growth and the magic comes from.
Do you think, though, if you mentioning that made me think of the system that we live in, of a college education, that's really not designed for this way of living, it's designed for being a cog in someone else's wheel. So you train people into spending all of this money to get an education. Now they're up to their in debt. They're trying to maneuver their way out of that. Therefore, they never pick up another book to read or anything else to learn, because why learn? Look what I did. I learned, and now I'm $100,000 in debt. So we've kind of conditioned people into not educating themselves farther.
Is new conditioning.
But all it does is it's that breaking them of that and saying, what's the new conditioning? What's the new way? The new way is, so what if that didn't work or that education wasn't quote unquote important? Maybe this one is. And if it's not this one, it's that one. And you continue to grow and change and learn and evolve. And next thing you know, those magic moments happen every day and happen continually.
You got it.
Mm-hmm.
So look forward to some very cool conversations, and maybe I'll even pose some of these questions to the summit friends that I've got this weekend.
Good idea.
And we'll get back to you with some more insights and knowledge on how to grow from here. So thanks for joining us, those of you online and those of you in our studio audience.
Awesome.
And we will see you next time.